Well, I have something delightful for you. Kari Lake posted one of the most embarrassing and sad videos of her trying to justify why she essentially in court conceded defeat in a defamation suit brought against her by Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer. Now, she had spread a bunch of lies about him being a part of this attempt to steal the election in Arizona. And this, as we see with these sorts of election denying lies, caused Stephen Richer to be threatened, caused his family to be threatened. And so he sued Kari Lake for defamation. Well, the lawyers for Kari Lake just recently said, essentially, skip the whole part of us having to defend ourselves and say we didn't defame. We're not going to defend ourselves in these accusations of defamation. And instead, we can just skip forward to the part where you decide on how much Kari Lake will have to pay to Stephen Richer, the damages portion. Here's a headline from Daily Beast. Kari Lake won't fight Arizona election officials' defamation suit. Then jumping over to Arizona Capitol Times, a quote from Richer's attorneys. Let me be very clear, this filing may be full of legalese, it might be a bit confusing to read, it might be a bit opaque, but the takeaway and the legal effect could not be clearer. Mrs. Lake is now refusing to defend the accusations that she made against Mr. Richer. She's effectively admitting that she has no evidence to defend herself as it relates to the question of whether she defamed our client. And then jumping to Arizona Central, Kari Lake wants to forfeit ability to defend herself in ongoing defamation lawsuit. Here's why. Faced with the prospect of turning over information, this is an interesting part, that could be used against her at trial, former gubernatorial and current U.S. Senate candidate Kari Lake is seeking to forfeit her ability to defend herself in court in an ongoing defamation case. Lake and her attorneys are requesting default judgment, which means a jury could decide damages in the suit. So we're not going to defend ourselves in the question of whether or not we defamed him. Instead, let's skip to the damages decision. And before I play this video you're about to watch from Kari Lake of her strangely trying to justify conceding in court on the question of defamation, Stephen Richer himself responded to the video saying, complete and total surrender by Kari Lake. Kari, you lied. You just accepted liability. You will now have a judgment entered in court against you for lying about our elections and me. It was all BS. Now on to damages. But don't worry, MAGA. She has a reason why she did this. It may seem like a legal admission, a legal concession, but no. Kari Lake can explain to you why this is really just a part of her fighting for you or something.
Hey, Arizona. When I first stepped into the political arena as a concerned mom and citizen politician, I could have never imagined how corrupt politics would be. Well, let me tell you.
And then I looked around me at all the people I hang out with and was like, wow, this is corrupt.
It is rotten to the core. The political elite will do anything to hold on to power and stop outsiders like me who they can't control. Washington, D.C. operates on blackmail and bribes. Since they can't blackmail or bribe me, they've resorted to filing a punishing lawsuit to try to stop me and bleed me dry. It's called lawfare. Weaponizing the legal system to punish, impoverish, and destroy political opponents. We've all seen how they're doing it to President Trump. And here in Arizona, they're doing the exact same thing to me. They know that they can't beat either of us fair and square, so they hit us with lawsuits to keep us tied up and off the campaign trail.
Okay, so let's pause there, then I'll play a little bit more. Again, remember that she's trying to respond to her lawyers having to give up on defending her against the defamation claims and skipping to the damages decision. But instead, it's about her victimhood. She really does follow the playbook of Trump to a T. Lie about your election, then play the ultimate victim. And I'll talk more about that because what she's doing here is actually pretty vile, but I want to play a little bit more first.
Because I've had the courage to speak out about our need for honest elections that all voters can have faith in, where every legal vote counts. Because I've told you the truth about how our elections are being run. Elected government officials are punishing me with a frivolous lawsuit, and they're threatening to take everything I own. What they don't realize is, even if they leave me, my husband and children homeless and penniless, that won't stop us. We will continue to fight for Arizona.
Okay, we'll stop it there. Now she's bringing her kids and her family into this. Do you know whose family was impacted by your lies? Stephen Richards, with the death threats, the calls for execution, and zero empathy on her part in understanding how lying about someone who's just doing his job, he's a lifelong Republican, just doing his job, how lies about him can impact his life, and how generally the personal impact of your lies are horrific, but also the impact of our lies on our democratic process are horrific. And it's interesting, she brought up the term frivolous lawsuit. It's actually a form of recourse that we do have in our legal system, which is suing someone for defamation whenever they potentially defamed you. But if you want to talk about frivolous, it's Kari Lake's lawyers who had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Kari Lake herself, in sanctions because of the frivolous lawsuit they brought relating to this very election, trying to prove that it was stolen because she just can't accept that she lost, like her dear leader, Donald Trump. And because they were so baseless, again, sanction, and had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the frivolous nature of those lawsuits.
Behind this ridiculous lawsuit are a dozen East Coast lawyers funded by special interests who have rolled into Arizona to interfere in my campaign for U.S. Senate. It is a political witch hunt, and everyone knows it. By participating in this lawsuit, it would only serve to legitimize this perversion of our legal system and allow bad actors to interfere in our upcoming election. So I won't be taking part. Instead, I will focus and continue to focus on the issues that matter to the people of Arizona: securing the border, bringing back our economy, improving healthcare and education.
Okay, let's go through those. Securing the border, she likely was on board with Trump's attempt to interfere with and encourage the obstruction of one of the toughest border legislations in decades that Joe Biden supported, but MAGA Republicans killed. If she were in the Senate, she would have gone along with Trump's attempt and successful attempt to kill that deal. She said, bring back our economy. Biden has overseen, as we talk so much about, a stunning economic recovery, the likes of which you rarely see, and one that outpaced comparable economies, unemployment low, wages growing compared to inflation. Job growth has been historic and rather strong, the stock market breaking records, etc. So that seems to be headed in the correct direction. Let's see, improving our healthcare and education. Much of the issues with our healthcare system and education system is because of the policies of conservative Republicans like Kari Lake. Continuing.
Arizona is worth fighting for, and that's exactly what I will continue to do. We have 7 months to save our country. November's election will decide the fate of America. We can't be distracted from what's truly important: securing a safe, affordable, and peaceful future for our children and our country.
You know, I've been meaning to tell you all something. As you know, you see it every day. I'm a warrior in the cause against the deep state, right? Every day, just me going blood, sweat, and tears against the deep state. And the deep state actually wakes up frightened, thinking about, what is Luke Beasley going to do today? All right. I live rent free in their nightmares. And so I was driving perfectly under the speed limit, to be clear. But then I got pulled over, and the officer, an operative of the deep state, was like, Luke, or I don't know why he would say my name like that, but he said, sir, you were speeding by like a lot, which is bogus, phony, frivolous accusation. But regardless, he said he had it on a scanner or something. Ridiculous. This is all being fabricated. But then I got a speeding ticket for $200. And so I'm gonna, just if you see this in your local newspaper, I am gonna go and admit guilt and pay the fine. I'm not going to dispute this deep state operative's telling of events. But we know I'm doing that for you. I'm doing that because I'm not going to legitimize this whole debacle. I'm not going to legitimize the targeting of myself by the deep state by disputing it, even though I totally could. I could prove in court easily I wasn't speeding, but I'm not going to legitimize such a dog and pony show, such a witch hunt. And so if you have $5, $10, that could really go a long way. It's really more about you. It would make you feel better. You would be more patriotic chipping in to pay this speeding ticket. Because I'm just fighting every day. That's what she's doing. That's this ridiculous act that all these MAGA Republican leaders get to do, which is anything bad happens to them. And it's somehow an embodiment of how they're a warrior against the deep state. And they're just exposing the corruption. And yeah, sure, I could prove that I didn't defame him, but nah, I'm going to skip that, pay the money, and make it go away. Why? If you didn't defame him, if what you are saying is true, then you could go defend yourself. And I'll remind you that the request from Lake's lawyers means Lake could avoid most discovery in the case, as this Arizona Central article pointed out. And that will help her avoid turning over information that could be used against her at trial. What information does she not want to have to turn over at trial? Well, any information, any investigation into these claims and Kari Lake's process of rolling out these claims is just going to further reveal how bogus it all is and how defamatory these sorts of claims are. And so she'd rather skip that process. It's not about trying to not legitimize the lawsuit, or in my analogy, the speeding ticket, which is not a true story. Okay. I've never got a speeding ticket like that. Come on. But that's what she's doing, because she could just prove herself innocent. You know, this isn't a criminal case, but prove that she didn't defame him, but she's not going to, because it's about not legitimizing the process, whatever the heck that means. And Trump does this, Kari Lake does it. And my question to MAGA is, why are you letting them insult you like this? It's them insulting your intelligence. The little skit thing I just did there, that, if it were real, would be insulting to my audience. And it's exactly what they do on a daily basis. They think that you cannot critically think enough to realize the grift going on here and the dishonesty being espoused here. And that should insult you. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel.